Hello, Miss Sepulveda. I just want to confirm you're out there. If you could signal to us one way or the other. She is? Oh, okay, great. All right. Hey, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. Hi, Ms. Sepulveda. Thanks for joining and thanks for your patience. We now have quorum in the room. We're going to go ahead and I'd like to call to order the June Lincoln Park High School Local School Council monthly meeting. And the first thing we're going to do is do a roll call. So Amy Zemnick, could we start with you and then go around the table?
Amy Zemnick, parent rep.
Paul Kendrick, community rep.
Peter Tallmers, parent rep.
Eric Steimler, principal.
David Cottons, teacher rep.
Laura Yepes, parent rep.
Brad Kessler, community rep.
Alicia Hernandez, parent rep.
Wonderful. And we have Miss Tarver, our athletic director in the room, and Miss Tookie, our IB coordinator. So thank you both for joining. And Miss Sepulveda, are you online? You just introduce yourself.
Hi, Angelica Sepulveda, non-teacher rep.
Thank you. Okay, great. So the next item is public participation. I don't know if there's anyone in the room here that would like to make a comment or if there's anyone online to make a comment. Are there other attendees?
There's a couple, but I'm looking.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any hands up.
Okay. If anyone is online and would like to make a comment, public comment, we ask you keep it to 2 minutes and you just raise your hand and Dr. Steinmiller will let you in the meeting.
I do not see any hands.
Do not. Okay. So not seeing any public comments here online, we're going to move forward. Next item is review approve minutes from May 9th meeting. We're going to have to move this forward. I don't have minutes for that yet. So I think what I'm going to do is it was recorded. So I will go online and take some minutes from the recording and we can approve it next time. But that's well, that's a possibility. It'll take a little research to do that, but yes, there are those apps out there. You just plug in the URL and it will summarize the meeting. So we could potentially do that. Okay, so we're not able to do that. Celebrations for Lincoln Park High School. Does anyone want anything to share?
Students
Spotlight.
graduated and it was awesome.
It was great. It was a great ceremony. It was very organized. It was clean. Everyone had a good time. Nice space and all that. So yeah, I think it was good. One I would like to highlight is, and maybe not everyone knows, but there's a fundraising summit for Lincoln Park that just happened. Alicia, that you walked into a meeting. So Dr. Steinmiller called together after some conversations with some different people, like all the groups that raise money for the school. So the sports boosters, the drama boosters, the band boosters, the choir boosters, whomever, to come and talk about how much money does each team or each organization need and how do we raise money. So we've had 2 meetings now, one a couple of weeks ago, the one this week. We've been gathering data and, we have some good ideas. There's more to be done. I think the next meeting is going to be in mid-July. But that's a great thing happening because historically we've had each group kind of working on its own and we're missing some of the economies of scale if we work together. So thanks, Dr. Steinmiller, for pulling that together. Okay, any other celebrations?
I'll briefly mention, everyone, that this is almost my last meeting. I think July, I have to be part of one for like 6 minutes or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of seats that aren't filled from the prior 3 years of LSC members. But I might have to send this area of the recording to other folks. But it's been an honor to serve with each and one of you. And I think those folks that are here and those folks that are not here, I haven't thought of one person that didn't care deeply about the future of this school, just in different ways and different mannerisms and different approaches. So I just want to thank everybody. And I still am obviously in the neighborhood. So I'm cheering for everyone to continue to make this just an A+ school that my 7-year-old can go to when she's of age. Thank you, everybody.
That's only 7 years away. So,
Yeah.
and the decision process like 6. So that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll be fine. She'll be fine. But that would be great, Brad. Thank you very much for your time and service and commitment. It's much, much appreciated. You've chaired several subcommittees. You've come in for non-committee stuff. You've just really been engaged, and it's made a big difference. So thank you. Yeah. Along those lines, I think it's appropriate to also acknowledge Mr. Coddens, who will also be stepping off into not as fun pastures, but perhaps anyway, more instructional pastures than governance pastures. But thank you, Mr. Coddens. You've been a huge boost to the LSC. You've always been a voice of balance, of reason, of challenge, of thoughtfulness, of sticking to the facts. And it's been really helpful for the governance of the committee. Yeah, thank you. And we also have Ms. Kaler, who is not here today, but I want to acknowledge her service over many years. She's put in a ton of time and is still involved in the PPLC. So we may still have some engagement with her, but I thank her for her highly committed service. And also Ms. Sepulveda, you are online. I want to thank you. You came in like an Energizer bunny right when you got voted in last fall. And we're like, what about this? What about that? And you identified, email distribution lists that were missing, how some people didn't really use emails or have, so we needed paper distribution for input on the cumulative principal eval. You've advocated for all of our students, especially those who are, maybe most under-resourced. So I really thank you for your energy and ingenuity in making an impact in just less than a year on the LSC. Okay. With that, I think I'm going to move us forward. LSC Budget Subcommittee. Brad, your last. Oh, okay. All right. Laura.
Yeah, hello. So we met just yesterday afternoon and kind of reviewed where we stood in terms of, well, a couple different things. First, want to review student fees because I know that was on top of everyone's mind at our last LSC meeting, because I know that we had difficulty in sort of the way that we had it constructed last year, where we had student fees, half of it was due in semester 1 and half of it was due in semester 2. So we have a final tally of fees received from the students. Overall, we received a total of $346,200. So that's an increase over the last report that we've had. In semester 1, we had 910 students pay the full $200 fee. In semester 2, we had 819 students pay the full $200 fee for semester 2. So overall, I think that was, obviously we could have done better in communicating. And the end, I mean, I think that final push really did help to put in those additional dollars into that bucket. And then total percentage received, I just wanted to note that honestly, there was no way that we could receive funds from all of our students because we have students who have waivers and have, reduced resources. So I think overall, I think that we had a pretty good amount that came in. I'm saying that if we got, I think our expected goal was 400,000, right? 200 from each semester. So we did an 86.5% reach of goal, which I think is fantastic. Now, if we had a stretch goal, right, if we had said that maybe 75% of the students could have participated, then we're a little bit lower on that. But I think we want to be realistic in what our expectation is on collection of student fees. So overall, for last school year, we received $346,200 on student fees. Also want to just go over to rentals. I think that we discussed that we now have another rental coming in for the summer, the rental of the pool.
Quick question.
Oh, yeah.
Student. So question on the student fees. So the students that didn't pay, that don't have a waiver, they still on the hook for the 400? I'm
Yeah.
assuming? Yeah,
Anything
right?
that's not paid will stay in their account.
Okay. We just won't get it out.
Correct. They're actually in the district sent out the initiatives that we can't, like withhold graduation, you can't withhold diplomas, you can't withhold other things. Just to schools, that wouldn't be our intent anyway, but we try to work with families to come up with a balanced approach.
Do we want to discuss too, that I think for next year, we're thinking about collecting fees differently as well? And obviously, this will be a discussion for the next LSC, maybe in July. We can talk a little bit further about those strategies for next year. So going back to rentals, we were successful in getting a rental with Chicago Sports and Social for the summer pool, I believe. So that's going to bring in an additional $32,000. So that's nice additional income for us. And then the last thing that we reviewed were the budget transfers. Again, this is spending funds that we have for the remainder of SY24. If you can, okay, great. So we've got the budget transfers tab. As you can see, it's color coded. And the reason why we're color coding it is because we just want to identify those items that were already passed in our last LSC meeting. Those items that we've already voted and approved are in green. Then we have the other color, which is the blue color. Those are items that are below the threshold for LSC approval. I think it's below 2,500. We're really just putting here those items on this budget transfer tab. So you're aware of where funds are coming from and where they're being allocated. This is really just a representation of the financials. But again, this is not subject for LSC approval.
Actually, I don't think there is anything that requires us putting to a vote because it's already been approved or it's below a threshold that requires a LSC vote anyway. Most of this are actually just balancing out end of year spending. So some of the things in blue were actually things we voted on because it would be like office supplies, like paper. So even though we put it in blue, just for simplicity, it was underneath any threshold. So we actually do not have a transfer vote for this meeting.
And then I think the last item was at our last meeting, we talked about the additional funds. Some was going to be allocated to putting grass on the grounds here at Lincoln Park, air conditioners, and I think it was an ice machine. So those are within the budget transfer as well. Okay.
This is the last thing is then the one thing we do have a fee for the IB summer math program. This is for our incoming freshmen. This is something we've been doing for years. So to approve this fee of $250 for the IB math students, because that is something we've been doing for the last for an extended period of time. And we just need LSC approval.
What does the fee cover?
Several weeks of math instruction over the course of the summer. We have 2 teachers, and it's because in the IB program, we have students coming across the city to get them on, basically on catching everybody up to a more common level so that when they go into classes, they'll be successful over a 4-year period in the IB program. So we just need to present to the LC for approval.
Is there a motion to,
Make a motion.
okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. I assume Ms. Sepulveda, you're good with that? Okay,
that's it.
I'm gonna count you as abstained.
I'm
so
good
you-
with it, sorry.
Oh, you're good? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the pool rental, we have the pool rental. It's actually not through Chicago Sports and Social. It's through Apache. It's a different group, but it's for 33,600. We're continuing, but we are continuing with Chicago Sports and Social for some other rentals too. So we can expanding on the rentals that we keep doing. Cool.
Okay, thank you. Any other budget items?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much. And great job getting $36,000 for the school. Okay. Friends of Lincoln Park High School. I don't know if there are any representatives on. There are. Okay, great.
Mr. Brown.
Hi, everyone.
Mr. O'Brien, how are you?
Excellent. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Just wanted to give you a quick update. You might have heard about this already, but we approved the purchase of 6 additional smart boards for the school. I believe we have 11 more to be done, and then we'll be done. We've also purchased for the U.S. News and World Report the ability to use the banners so that so we can tout the school. We're working on getting up new officers, and then I have a question. Next meeting, do you want to know all our 2024 2025 fundraising activities, or do you want to do it on a piecemeal?
I think together. I would say together. What we have been trying to do is have a collective focus on like the financial needs of the school early in like at the first either July meeting, because often in August school's already started if we need fees and all that. So at the July meeting, if you could put all of those together, we do it at once. It avoids it's really the only topic for the July meeting will be financials, because we haven't started the school year yet.
Okay.
So if you can do it all at once, that'd be great.
All right, we'll do. That's it.
Okay, great. And welcome. I know you're taking over for Sabrina Spritznagel as the president of Friends of. So congrats
Big
and
shoes
thank
to
you.
fill, so
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Colin.
thanks, guys.
Okay, Dr. Steinmiller, over to you for the principal's report.
Excellent. Let me share my screen. Give me just a moment. Oops. All right. Continuing, make sure the screen will show up. Just considering celebrations going into this, we graduated our over 430 seniors. We had an alum who was able to be our speaker, did a fantastic job. I'm just really, really proud of all of our students, teachers, and staff who came out to support the 4-year transition for our students. And now we start all over, and we begin to welcome all of our freshmen. We have IB summer math. We start summer school on the 24th. We have freshman connection starting the second week in July. So school year has begun. Something I wanted to just again celebrate is then again a niche.com. It's something that we've found a lot of success with, is being the #1 niche standout high school in Illinois.
Niche, what makes it
Unique schools. And so things with us would be like our diversity. So we're the #1 for diverse public high school, #7 magnet school. So it's sort of the unique programs in Illinois, but being just the overall standout high school is pretty awesome to celebrate. This is based off of polls and feedback from the community, students, and different people contributing to it. So something for us to really be proud of as a school, of being #1 with this group. I'm really proud of this. I want to just keep sharing that. It's a good, and it aligns with the U.S. News and World Report. Again, we are the #1 community neighborhood high school, 7 selective enrollment in front of us, about 10 or so behind us. And we want to keep moving forward with that with some goals. And we are already starting on that planning. But what I want to be able to hop into right away for this meeting were some just really kind of focus areas. One of those being our audit. Oh, crud. Slideshow, wrong button. So obviously our CIWP focusing on curriculum instruction, post-secondary success, connectedness and well-being. I will report out to this in the fall about the successes we've had in these areas when we have our state of the school. But for the time being, I want to share out our audit. We were audited, as I've shared with the LSC before, from an audit that happened about 5 years ago. There were numerous red flags and major concerns across the school. What I'm happy to share is that in this audit, there were items that were flagged just for follow-up. We were able to address those with follow-up, and there is only one outstanding matter to be addressed with our audit. And that is for me to present the audit to you. That is due June 30th. So I want to be able to hop into this. So what I want to be able to hop into right away for this meeting And so I get to complete the full audit and the follow-up to it, but I'm going to share the items that were flagged for us to be able to demonstrate an item to be addressed and make sure that they are addressed. So I'm going to go through those one by one and just explain those to you along the way. Number one, cash handling, the thing that we flagged, and this, yeah.
Here, the call, the audit, even there.
Mhm.
Right? It was something like 12 out of 15 areas failed, so we're not. 10 of 12. It's pretty big.
It was even almost more than that. Yeah, so there was failures in pretty much every category.
So if there were, say, 15 categories, then mostly failure, what's the equivalent to that now? Are there still 15 areas, or just so I can do apples to apples?
Yeah, so in that report, the previous report, there were items that could not be resolved. So for example, there were several months of financial documents that we could not resolve. Identifying certain fund usage, or how the funds were used, or how checks were written, or who they were written to. So the issue with the previous one is all of the items could not be resolved. Because we didn't have their paperwork. We didn't have any other thing. So there was no way to resolve those. What we could only resolve was putting procedures in place to avoid that moving forward. So in this report, we had 8 items that we needed to resolve. And that's how these audits work, is you're able to resolve them or not. In the previous one, even I can't come up with 40 documents talking about how $180,000 were allocated to non-vendors through checks. Like, I couldn't document that. And that was an example of one. I think 188. And so they're having somebody external who is not part of the school being paid to do like, those are things I could not resolve. In this, I am able to resolve this. And so some items were flagged and some were submitted back to almost self-flag. And this is number one. In this one, cash handling was our number one, and this was actually brought back after our initial audit. This was added to it, was cash handling, and this related to the basketball. That we had funds that were created through a Citibank account instead of through a booster club. And so to resolve this, we had to make sure that the account was closed and that expectations were shared and set moving forward. So we have documentation that the account is closed and any remaining funds have come back to the school, and that it has been clear about the processes in which funds should be collected, but with a specific group, and this was resolved. Oh, that's back there. So that was our first one. And again, we originally had 7. This was added in addition to, actually following the initial audit. The next one, number 2, is cash disbursements. And this is how you can see how specific this is. So this is missing signatures completed and LSC meeting minutes shared. So with this one, we had documentation of something we approved in the LSC. The forms you see that I give to our chair have to have my signature on it, and it has to have the chair's signature on it. So in those cases, it requires a hand signature for both people. And it can't be digital. And so in the case of this, we had digital signatures. Those can't count. We had to demonstrate there was actually an LSC meeting that approved it. And then we had to have wet signatures submitted. We submitted, this was resolved. You're going to see the same thing with this. Teachers, extended day pay after school. Teachers were working after school. They have forms they have to complete to document it. There were 32 documents. They were all digital signatures, not wet signatures. So they were all flagged. They didn't count because they were digital signatures. Again, the teachers worked the minutes. It was documented appropriately. It was just not a wet signature. So what we had is all the teachers resubmit the documents. We submitted it to the district, and this was resolved. And so moving forward, we just have to make sure that our teachers are signing them by hand instead of doing a digital signature. And that was just a process that helps us improve our practice. But yes, it's a pain in the butt because it's been effective. We have all signatures. It just has to be a wet signature. Next up, Fixed assets was flagged. We had kind of two different scenarios. We had it where when in TipWeb, any purchase that we make, like with technology, we have to in TipWeb, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and I would actually say up over thousands of things that have to be documented. So all the Chromebooks, we have over 2,000 Chromebooks, they're all in TipWeb. We have, so anything we purchase is in TipWeb, including like Chromebooks. This specific, all right, Chromebooks, this smart board is assigned to room 103. And so the example, the two things that were flagged was we had a rolling smart board that was rolled into the hallway when they were doing the audit. So it wasn't in 103, it was flagged. We had another asset tagged item that was in room 258 that should have been in 104. It just had to be corrected. Mr. Hardesty corrected it. We purchased 2 cameras. They were not entered into TipWeb because they were small cameras, but in a recent purchase, we just had to make sure they were asset tagged, assigned, and that was taken care of. We also had a Samsung 85 display. It was located in room 180 that just needed to make sure that it had a purchase order assigned to it. So when Mr. Hardesty has to do this for every tech item, he has to assign the purchase order that where it came from, make sure the item is documented, and it has to be asset tagged and then assigned to a specific room. So you can see how arduous of a task this is for thousands of items we have in our school for one tech coordinator. He does have one person supporting him in the summer to help, because as you pull things out of rooms to clean them, you put them back. If they get misplaced into the wrong room, we get flagged. The fact that we only have this many over an audit, I was actually pretty impressed with Mr. Hardesty. I mean, this really speaks to Mr. Hardesty. A huge shout out to the organization. He was really upset about this, believe it or not. And it's just, he did an awesome job. And so he fixed it, and therefore this is no longer a matter to be addressed. Number 5, yeah.
So items that are shared with multiple room, like the camera.
Yeah.
You got to
So when you're done using the camera, put it back into room 119. If you leave it in room 124 and they were doing an audit, we'd be flat. I know. So when they go around and they go around, they scan every asset tag, and everything's got a scanner, and they scan, and if it's not assigning the right thing, you get flagged. It's how you don't lose things. I mean, there is actually a logic to it, but it's hey. Or file a police report. At the point you can no longer find an item, you have to file a police report, and then depending on the value of it, then there may be something else that goes along with it. This is the next one. This is safety and security. We had 30 plus teachers who have not completed their safe school trainings by the 32 teachers who had not completed their safe school trainings by May 6th of 2024. This is compliance on how to do DCFS, how to do if the emergency situations. These are all the trainings that are required. It goes all through safe school training. The next steps and action items for me were to send multiple communications to the staff to complete past due trainings. Those who have still yet to address it, and there are individuals who have yet to address it, and one individual who has yet to complete any safe school training. I am working with the HR, and that may lead to potential me having to work with them on some next steps to make sure that it is addressed. But that is something that we have to, again, it is expected of all teachers and staff to complete all of their trainings.
Is that just retraining?
There's retrainings, but there are trainings that we are compliant. We have to complete DCFS, for example, every single year where it's required for it. There's a bunch of them, but we've also allocated time so that for teachers to accomplish it during the school year. The beginning of the PD, at the beginning of the year, we have time allocated to do that. In our flex days, we've actually embedded time that we're giving back to teachers to do that as well. But for the expectations of the district, communication, so either teachers have completed all of it, or I'm working now with HR on next steps. So that has been resolved. Number 6, safety and sports safety. This is for football equipment. Sorry, there's a carryover on the top about past due. This is our football equipment. It's documenting that the football helmets have been reconditioned and providing receipt that they have actually been done. We provide the receipts that they were reconditioned. this is no longer a matter to be addressed. So this was a paperwork issue. We were able to resolve that. Number 7, again, sports safety. This is for our lacrosse equipment. Yeah, please excuse the comment at the very top. That's just a duplicate of the slide. Lacrosse helmets, they need to be inspected every season. 12 of the helmets did not meet reconditioning requirements. So we have to make sure that we have a plan to get them reconditioned and get them submitted for recondition for the following season. We will get those 12 helmets reconditioned. For helmets and safety, I believe it through, I'll actually refer to you.
Helmet, the school pays for that. Yeah. This year's reconditioning, I could, well, yeah, typically it does.
Yeah. Student fees, different things that we would have, can't be OST, because it's not a club. But these are things that are required, we have to do, so we address them. The overall cost is not, I can't tell you the cost of the 12 helmets, but it was required. And number 8 is finished today. I've just presented to you the 7 matters that we needed to address within our audit. The rest we passed, everything was good. And this goes from, you can imagine all the details of it, of everything that's documented, all the forms we do with our finances. We passed with flying colors. So that was our action plan. I can now submit the final thing, which is this meeting took place, and it will show up in our documentation of our agenda and our LSC. So that was our audit. Any questions about the audit? It was pretty awesome.
Is it possible to get a copy of it? You shared a copy of the old one.
Yeah, I can send it to you. It shows it as what are the matters to be. So we're hoping as resolving this, you'll get a final report.
Okay, great.
Showing all items resolved.
Yeah, that would be great.
So the one we have is the initial one of you must address this within a certain, they give us due dates of
Okay.
when they must be resolved. And so we've resolved that. So we'll have our final audit, which will have all things.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be great.
Cool. One thing that was also brought up was cell phone policy. We enacted that as a pilot for the remainder of the for the 4th quarter. We surveyed we're surveying our teachers, as well as Mr. G was doing pop-ins on a regular basis. Again, we were asking our teachers what policy method that they were currently using in the room. Again, majority of our teachers were using phone pockets, Sunday backpacks, about 41.9%. Stoplights, about 8%. Majority were using some level of phone pockets or a variation of different things across the school. We raised student participation in terms of following the self policy for the most part. You could see that it was high levels of participation. In 4 instances in which it was a lower level. And these are some things we reflected on, was which policy were they in at, which practice were they putting into place? And we found that backpacks wasn't not as effective. Not effective is probably the best way to put it. So those that did the backpack method kept having issues. Those that were using the pockets were finding way more success.
What is the stoplight?
What?
What is the stoplight?
Stoplight you were changing. You would be able to use your backpack, not or use your phone, not use your phone. It would vary depending on the activity of what was going on in the class. But really what we found is it wasn't necessarily the stoplight, it was the back. If it was on their person, they were still having an issue with it. Multiple asks to put the phone away. This is moving forward with whole school implementation for the start of the year. Which cell phone policy would you like to support? Overall, it was overwhelmingly a uniform whole school policy, phones in pockets or alternative method, be it tubs, but it will be off the student's person. That was 75%. There was a slight percentage that wanted it to be in backpacks, somewhat teacher discretion within that. We're going to tease more of this out. But I think the big point was we have to have a uniform policy across the school. And where we are looking to move forward, it has to be pocket or it needs to be a tub. Backpacks will not be an option. It's got to be off the student's person. It can't be on the student's person. In the unique spaces like art and our music programs, where actually phone is a tool, then those would be stoplight rooms. We'll roll this out more. We have a group that's coming back together to help talk through. So I don't want to say that this is the final version of it, but it has to be a consistent practice across the school. And we also have to have consistent communication across the school. Every room will communicate, whether it's a tub or a phone pocket. or it's a stoplight based on that room. So every room must communicate what they are doing along those, because we have visual arts in different rooms that are would do the stoplight where it does make some sense with the pockets. And again, we ask about how do we communicate that with our students so they know the expectations, door signs indicating the policy, and then having the stoplight system in the room were the major responses from our teachers. So that was our cell phone policy response. Overall, very positive.
Can I share just a couple of quick things? I think that's great to hear. Thank you for providing the data, and it's, you know, I think pretty clear what the teachers are looking for, that one policy, and I'm glad we're moving forward. Just to a couple things to look forward to that I've heard is a couple parents have reached out and said, one is that a couple teachers, for this one student, would allow kids to have phones at the end of every class, which I thought was kind of interesting. I just want to highlight that. The other is, you know, parents can monitor how their kids are using it through screen time. And some parents were looking and saying, you know, I can see my kids using Snapchat all day long during class. So I think this should help prevent that, which is great. And then the other thing was repercussions. Some were saying, you know, even kids who get like caught or violating the policy, nothing seemed to happen to them. So I just wonder if you could comment on that. Was this just a little bit more loose because it was a pilot? In the fall, what do we expect in terms of consequences?
I mean, we have a set structure for the consequences. I think for the most part, there were, you know, where a teacher was able to address it, all parent was able to be resolved. Where those were doing backpacks, I think that's where the most breakdowns were at. So there would be multiple reminders about the backpack without escalating it. But that's also like a breakdown of the backpack just perspective. Right. And so moving forward, it's got to be standardized across the board. And those are things that I have to reinforce with all of our school, that this is what I need to see in every single classroom. If there is a unique variable that's unique to that class, then I need an explanation of why it is not one of those two reasons.
Okay, great. And then the last one was like, one parent was saying, and my kid did have a detention, but then they're allowed to use their cell phone during the detention. So it's like, how is this even a punishment? You know?
The thing, we reflected today on several things of how we need to improve some practices. There'll be some things we'll revise.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Last thing, we talked about student fees being collected. We was an updated part of that report. Another was then just final with the payment status for the basketball program, several fundraisers. I did send out communication that the funds have been raised, but until it's in the account, I have not received the funds yet. And so my understanding is funds have been raised to do the full repayment, but I haven't received those funds yet. So this is not resolved until I have those funds.
Okay, thank you. That's great to hear. So just to summarize, there were $25,000 that was a loan, roughly half and half for boys and girls team. The girls team is not repaying their 12 whatever. The boys is, and you're saying that they have raised most of that 12,000?
That was what was shared with me today.
Okay.
I need to receive the funding before this is resolved.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. And
All
then,
good?
yeah, and the student fees. Thank you, Laura, for that.
Let me ask you that though, if I can follow up. When we do receive the funds back from the boys basketball team, where would those funds go?
Currently, we're just putting them into a bucket so we can ensure that the money is back. At that point, we would repurpose those as an LSC, whether it goes into transportation for athletics in general or goes into a different purchase. We as an LSC and subcommittee will be able to address how we utilize those funds.
Right.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks for your principal report.
Yep.
Okay. Next on the item is the Lincoln Park High School Athletic Director update. We have Miss Brandy Tarver here, our new AD, newish AD. Thank you for coming, Miss Tarver. We turn it over to you.
Thank you for having me. Wait, can you all hear me?
Yeah. And just so you know, these are for the people online. It doesn't sound better here.
All right. So, priorities. Right now, my priorities are hiring. We are currently looking for coaches for a few of our sport programs. They are posted on the website under the athletics tab. Right. So we do have a couple of vacancies. And so hiring right now, especially for fall sports, that is a priority. And next we have inventory. Right now, we are myself, Dr. Steinmiller, and Miss V. We are currently working with the coaches to find out their immediate needs for each team, each program. Aside from uniforms, there are major equipment needs. And in addition to that, my other priority is facilities and storage. Right now, we have already cleared out most of the storage spaces that we have. Right now, it's just getting organization and buildings for the athletic program so that each team has a designated space. We know what's in those spaces, and we're able to better manage them and keep them organized. Plans, we have a ton of plans, but our main focus right now is to get a scoreboard for the gym room, the main gym. The current scoreboard is inoperable. Well, it's not inoperable, but it has problems, and we cannot use that for the 2024-25 school year. We also would like to see. My plan is to enter buses and rosters before the start of the 24-25 school year. Reason being, that was probably my biggest headache when I came here. A lot of the buses weren't scheduled, so if I can get those scheduled ahead of time, that'll alleviate a lot of problems. As you all know, getting buses for athletics in the city of Chicago is difficult. All right, so they prioritize after school programs, not athletics. And they prioritize the elementary schools. So if I get a jump on that, then we shouldn't have any issues with buses this year. And then another plan of mine prior to the school year, which I just got this done today, is establish an online store for an athletic, or not athletic, but for an LPHS Letterman jacket. We just got that done today. Actually, I'll be sharing that I just shared it with Dr. Steinmiller actually a couple of hours ago. So hopefully we'll be sharing that with the school shortly. Goals, increase community engagement. We were over here talking about improving our relationship with the local businesses that surround Lincoln Park High School, the elementary schools, different organizations. So just improving our community engagement. If we have to throw a little welcome back block party or festival or something like carnival or something like that to get the community more involved and better our relationship with them, that'll be awesome. I would like to finish hiring completely by September 1st. I would like to be done with hiring for fall sports prior to August 12th. And that is all, actually.
That's awesome. Go.
Okay, so we did bring up transportation during our budget meeting.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, so we brought up transportation during our budget meeting as well. I mean, we looked at overall spend and just, again, trying to organize within the different bus charters that are there and available, and then just the timing, right? Because you're talking about buses, priorities are taking kids to and from school or for after school programs, which is the same time that athletics needed to go to a meet or somewhere like for practice and stuff. So I guess my question to you is, how do you think that you'll be able to organize transportation for next year? And what are your thoughts? Like, when you're scheduling all of that, do you anticipate like that the APs are going to help you out with that? Or are you going to be taking that on?
Actually, I get a ton of help from Mr. Lescano. He's a huge help with scheduling or reserving buses. But getting a head start on those, we're getting a jump on those vendors that are less expensive. I think the issue this year is we waited so long. Well, there wasn't an AD, so a lot of buses or games didn't have buses. They weren't reserved. And so coming in, I had to reserve buses for games that were, let's say in a day or a week. So, you know, that's extremely difficult with it being the end of the school year, and you have like the senior trips, and you have, like I said, elementary games and all those other programs going on. But getting a jump on that now, we won't have any issues, especially since we will not have our only option won't be the more expensive vendors. So we'll be able to use Sunrise because they have a lot more availability right now. And I've already gotten a lot of football out the way. So there won't be any issues, and we should be able to cut back hugely on travel expenses for athletics because we've already got pretty much the whole football schedule out the way.
I really appreciate that. I think you are going to do great at managing this, and especially because there hasn't been like a tight management in the past. What our LSC hasn't done in prior years is actually manage an internal accounts budget. And so remember that like these dollars come from internal accounts. They come from either rentals in combination with student fees, combination of grants that might come through that could go into internal accounts. So those that are on the LSC starting, in July or August, start going through an internal accounts kind of budget and just think about with less dollars coming to the school next year, because of different maneuvers that CPS did, play around and figure out where their priorities are, just so we don't find ourselves in the spring thinking, okay, we've spent so much dollars on certain things, but yet there's other needs that are taking place.
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say is we usually start out pretty strong in the fall, and then by the time springtime, there's no buses for any of the teams, or, everything like breaks down in the spring. So is there a plan to keep that momentum going through the other seasons?
Oh, yes. So each season, you don't start working on a season at the start of that season. So we are knocking fall out right now. And then the plan is to work on winter sports in the fall. Well, actually right before fall, because technically fall sports starts in the summer. So that's what we'll be doing. We're also, every team will not, so buses, we spent $77,000 on buses. So we're going to cut back a lot on that because every team will not utilize buses. Right? We'll have parent transportations for those teams. A lot of teams don't have any more than 10 kids in the program. So those programs will, have to utilize parent transportation, and that'll be a huge help as well. So when it comes springtime, I'm looking to have that completed before the winter season ends. And like I said, I get a lot of help from Mr. Lescano and as well as Mr. Savage, who were two former ADs as well.
How will that be communicated to the teams that won't have buses, that there aren't going to be buses? And I know one of the things we talked about was maybe doing buses for more than like 5 miles. If there is a team that has an event that is, far away, then there would be a bus provided for something like that, even if the team was a smaller team. So where is that in consideration? Or
so I work with the coaches. We'll have one-on-one meetings as well as an entire athletic department meeting. Everything will be communicated there as well as email. A lot of the coaches have already received, especially fall coaches, they have already received a ton of communication from me, so they already know what to expect. But that's how things will be communicated. We'll have a ton of meetings, one-on-one department, and they already know the plan for next year because they receive a lot of communication from me daily about how the systems that we'll work within and the plan for next year.
What are you hiring for the fall?
For the fall, we're looking for a swimming coach, boys golf. Right now, we will, until we find a boys golf coach, the new girls golf coach, it'll be co-ed. But we're looking for swimming, girls volleyball. She would like to hire an assistant or a freshman coach. So we're looking for that as well. And then dance as well, which Corey Hilton has been supportive, and she has not left our side since resigning. But until we secure a coach, she has been very, very helpful.
did you say Val?
freshman coach. She's not like,
Oh, girls volleyball.
just a freshman
fresh.
coach. Yeah,
Okay.
she just wants some help. So especially we have a huge turnout for volleyball. So if we can have a freshman level, then a lot of girls we wouldn't have to turn away. So they wouldn't have to wait until their sophomore year to try out again and make the team.
On a different note, and if you speak about this, district-wide, there's been actually some legal issues with equity in sports, where sports at schools were heavily male dominated, and there were very few female options. This is a Title IX issue that was happening district-wide across the school district. Lincoln Park High School was flagged as one of the schools that was needing to address this concern. This is several years back. Could you share there was a meeting today reflecting on our development over the last couple of years, this year and this year and last year? Would you mind sharing out about that meeting?
Oh, well, we don't have that issue anymore. Actually, we're one of the model schools for that because it's pretty even. We actually have in the spring, we have more sport offerings for girls than we do boys. So we are no longer in that place. We've added girls flag football, which we know is growing and will be a very successful program in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, and definitely at Lincoln Park. Dance, I know we spoke about that and the success of our dance program and them being recognized nationally. And we want to continue to expand that program. And that's why, getting a coach in is obviously top on our list. She made a few highlights about last year when you all had the audit and sharing with other schools how we kind of do things and why we don't have an issue with a Title IX issue here at Lincoln Park. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else we talked about in that meeting. I'm sorry, you all. This is the 4th meeting today. Yeah.
Well, and one thing to raise was also how our athletic director was really being proactive about recruitment, hiring, also bringing in representational hiring into our school and making those attempts. So just really celebrate the work that she has done in a short amount of time.
Yeah,
It's awesome. Thanks.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna, yeah, I was going to add 2 other things. One, amazing to be talking about recruiting right now. So I just want to echo what Dr. Steinmiller was saying. It's something that if Ted Smith was here, and obviously, Amy, who is here, have been harping on coaches for quite some time and making sure that we had our eye on the ball so that kids weren't left, coachless for periods of time. So that is awesome, the focus there. The other thing you mentioned with storage and organization, both on comments on Helica has made in the past about what materials are available for folks that are less fortunate. And also so things don't go missing, like happened 2 years ago for the basketball team where all the jerseys were gone. And so that's really needed for this school and thinking about sustainability. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, a question for you about space. I'm sure you've been down into the basement and seen the locker rooms. So one of the locker rooms is mostly kind of blocked off with some pads, but there's a giant area that's all open and empty lockers. Is there a vision for how that could help the school? Use that differently?
Yes, actually. We want to try to put something down there to divide that space up so we can turn that into a storage space for our bigger teams. Football is one of the programs that we want to keep in the locker room. And hopefully we can turn a lot of that dead space into useful space. We talked about getting cages in the locker rooms as well. So we have been talking about utilizing a ton of that space. He already knows I want to get rid of a lot of the shower space that is not being used. So yes, we're toying with that idea. I also would like to have some sort of athletic hallway or Hall of Fame or something like that. So those are all ideas that we have discussed, and actually utilizing the locker rooms for storage. That's actually in works.
What was that? U of I what? What?
Utilizing the storage,
yeah.
the space in the locker rooms.
Okay.
That's in the works, yes.
Oh, great,
Yes.
great. And then how about I assume the lockers were put there for a reason. Should we not be using the lockers as lockers anymore?
I mean, that's their choice, but I mean, it's there for their use. I do encourage, or I will be encouraging coaches to have the athletes use those and provide their own locks for just that time when they're at practice or something like that. They can
Okay.
use it, but that's totally up to them.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing is in terms of recruiting, coaches, one thing that has been done in the past is to advertise through like the weekly newsletter or the Friends of or the LSC. So I would love if you wouldn't mind like just sharing, hey, here are the coaching needs we have, because we all know people and maybe it's a friend, a neighbor, a cousin, just a thought. Feel free to use us, I guess is my point. We're here to support as much as we can. So thank you.
Oh yes, I will be sharing that with you.
Great.
So also I would like to add that if anyone, I'm never hiding, I'm always working. So if I don't show up to something, please don't take it personally. I probably either just forgot, or I'm either meeting with someone or I'm working on something. So please reach out to me if you all would like, to see me more often, or if you would like me at a specific meeting or something like that. And I don't mind attending you all, I promise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One of the big goals that Dr. Steinmiller's talked about is student engagement, and I think that athletics is such a huge part of that. And we've needed leadership in that space. So thank you for bringing it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay. So I think committee reports will probably be somewhat light, but let's go ahead through them anyway. We have student voice and student life. We have no student representatives here, so I don't.
Yeah, the only update with that would be student life will have a level of student life / student government moving into the fall, so that we will have it where there will be elections for elected representatives within student life to help in the planning, help in the certain events that are taking place. But we'll still have two separate groups where student voice is aligned with LSC and the LSC reps and policies and procedures as a school, and student life on the student experience. But there will be a student government component to that, so that students can be elected, but also those who choose to be able to be involved in student life will still also have an option of building leadership capacity of those in student government.
Okay. So just so I understand, LSC, the student voice is more LSC policy sort of type stuff. The student experience is more like
homecoming.
Okay.
Prom. So
it's great.
Even at prom, we had several junior leaders who volunteered to work prom, so they could also learn how to make it better for their own prom, which would be how the student government support would be, because they can then see how other groups are doing it to help improve their experiences over 4 years.
That's fantastic. Okay. Thanks for that update, Dr. Steinmiller. PPLC or PPC, anything?
We reviewed some recommendations that came from the Student Voice Committee, many of which were in conflict with contractual stuff between CTU and CPS. Those were discussed a little bit with the student representative that was there, and I don't think I have anything else at this time.
Is that it? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were looking something up. Okay. Okay. Facilities.
Okay, we had a meeting. I'll run through a few different topics. One being the fence that has been discussed in this meeting and by Dr. Steinmiller in the past. CPS and Dr. Steinmiller have continued to give the green light to having a fence on Armitage, although making sure there's an emergency release valve in case the technology is not working has held up the actual installation. So there's updated quotes that are coming in. It still isn't clear, I think, to the facilities committee whether the other side of the fence will get approved and funded. It sounds like Dr. Steinmiller is feeling confident. The requests have been put in, and Dr. Steinmiller is going to continue to try to put emphasis on the safety and security team downtown and on the head of facilities, around it. So we're still in kind of the position of not knowing when that fence is going up. Because again, it's went back out to quote to try to get that emergency release valve. The mural that Dr. Steinmiller has brought up over the last couple of years, that'd be going on the freshman building. The installation has started to go up, which is more of a metal frame. And Tony, the engineer, was giving an update on needing additional screws to be able to put that up. And a question came up about, his availability and his allowance to be able to spend dollars on ancillary pieces like that, which was brought up in some of our conversations last meeting. We had a quorum. The painting of the gym, Dr. Steinmiller is looking to the Friends of team, so that might have come up, I don't know, in the fundraising meeting, but it's looking to Friends of for help with that. Gym floors, we still haven't gotten any dollars from CPS central office to help with the gym floors. So still temporary fixes include, sanding the gym floors and using glue. I assume like a glue that's better than what my kids use. The bathrooms we've talked about before that Friends of has given dollars to help update the bathrooms, both paint and the partitions, and using a material in the partitions that are much more difficult to graffiti on. Those are going to likely be installed by the end of July, first week of August. The actual installation doesn't take a while, but we're waiting on the year to swap over so that CPS doesn't sweep the funds accidentally prior to us being able to use it. We had a conversation about availability of using DePaul's resources. So I've got a to-do of reaching back out to DePaul's leadership for classrooms and for facilities, gym, et cetera. The parking lot is not yet funded to be replaced. It's a very expensive project, but Tony, the engineer, in the meantime, you might have seen him fill holes with bricks. I did on an off day. So big potholes, sometimes just placing a bunch of bricks in there helps to cover up the pieces. We did talk about the funding of landscaping and aerators. So that it did seem like something that Dr. Steinmiller and Tony, the engineer, did not go forward with the same level of funding that we wanted to. So I wanted to make sure that folks in the LSC knew that. So I know in the transfers, there's about $300 spent on grass. But as far as I know, that's the extent of the dollars. So one thing, this is crossing over a bit of the budget piece, but the use it or lose it dollars, I didn't see a lot on paper. There wasn't on grass, obviously. And there wasn't on air conditioning because the air conditioners were discovered to be a lot more expensive than what was presented in the meeting because of what was needed inside of the rooms. So did we lose a lot of money in that crossover? So what was, if you can walk through what was spent on?
We had $3K. We've approved $3K for the ice machine, $2K for AC vents, $5K for grass growing in muddy areas. So
Right. So it went to office supply. I mean, it went to paper and supplies for the school. To do the AC, so the things that were proposed were like on Amazon, like it's not, it just was it's way more expensive than that. To do the AC units, for example, within the counseling, I mean, we're talking potentially could be $100,000. Because when you put exhaust, you're putting exhaust into another space. The room in the freshman building, if you put an air conditioning unit in the room by the security desk for that room, it's pumping the heat right on top of security. And so it's not as simple as just putting a hole in the wall. When you put a hole in the wall, these are still thousands of dollars to do this work. We had a cap at 2,500. You can't do that work for 2,500. We did get fans and things to help, but no massive units because they're just too.
So basically we voted on something without having the full due diligence from the engineering team. And they kind of said, hey, we can't do what you think with this.
Right.
So therefore the 2,500, 2,000 that we had voted for use of AC is being partially used for fans to help somewhat, but the rest is going to supplies. Okay. So just so everyone knows, we voted it for X, but it can't be used for X the way we thought. Can you speak up into the thing?
Same thing with the landscaping, right? The grass at the end of the day, I mean, without having the due diligence, we really can't go about spending the full amount that was allocated.
Yeah, it's still off supplies. Like we just paper, more things for the start of the year. There was a last minute purchase order from the wellness department. They needed supplies beginning of the year. They did some audit, realized they needed like over $1,000 worth of new stuff. Because as we were cleaning out, they realized what they had actually not going to be sufficient. So we're able to make a purchase order. Done.
So I guess the one thing, and I was at the facilities meeting with Mr. Cantore, it was not clear to me why the grass growing couldn't happen. And so that's just a follow-up item I'd like to have, because he told me we need an aerator. And so we allocated money for that. I think he told Mr. Coddens the same thing. And so I just don't know what the problem he was saying things were.
I think he may have gotten an aerator, but what's the other?
Tiller.
Tiller. So I think he was able to get a tiller, but the aerator wasn't the priority of putting more money towards the seeds and watering.
Okay. So maybe we'll get something out of that. I don't know.
Well, money, I think about 2,000 plus maybe will go to like going towards that.
Do you know if you think we'll get grass out of that? Do you
We
think
got
we can
4
get grass?
bags. Of
But no, like
grass.
will grass grow with the tiller and the
They'll
seed?
chop up, they'll break up the dirt, and some of the dirt's just like concrete out
Right.
there. So
Okay.
Is
All right.
have you guys talked about moving the current fences that are fenced off? Once the other fences will come in, or is it just gonna feel like a prison?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been conversations about what to do, and also like what to do with the existing fences that are blocking off areas, what to do with frustration we anticipate coming from dog owners that are so accustomed to using the areas regardless, and trying to create, where do we have a dog run? Like there are the fences are going to have various impacts, especially for like pedestrian traffic that happens on Burling and other places. So one thing we've talked about in the facilities committee is having a specific, subcommittee theoretically out of the LSC or out of the facilities committee, but that is made up of the principal and other stakeholders and maybe just other community members also in the neighborhood. But it's still a bit in the holding pattern. I don't know if Dr. Sandler, you have a different answer for that.
yeah, I think once we have the full timeline of the fence, I mean, I think the idea is to remove the fences between the building, but we want to engage multiple stakeholders in that conversation. So it's not set it's going or set it's staying. There are pros and like there's ways they could go down, and you could create own divisions of space through flower beds and different things, raised flower. I mean, but we're not at that point right now. We're just trying to get to step 1. So that's kind of tabled until it needed.
The other thing that again has come up in the facilities committee related to fencing is when cars can no longer drive down this path for like deliveries in the wrong places. We've got to make sure that the loading dock in the back is set up correctly with like the right access, making sure there's the right technology. And that I'm sure you're trying to push facilities downtown on that issue as well.
Yeah, that goes through safety and security. They're fully supportive of this. The chief of safety and security fully wants this implemented and is very supportive of it. That person green lights the other work. So.
Okay, thank you. Next is principal evaluation. We're going to have closed session shortly for Dr. Miller's annual evaluation. No other updates. Safety and security.
Met last week. We talked about the cell phone policy and what the data that Dr. Steinmiller presented. We also discussed the need for a really proactive attendance and discipline and tardy rollout at the beginning of next year, and that there has to be a plan in place that is going to address the issues of attendance, that is going to address what happens when kids miss class. That's really something that's been lacking, and we need it to be a priority. I think parents are concerned. I think students are not so concerned, but it's impacting learning. So I think that, this was something that Tom was really focused on building out. One thing that did come up that was a little bit frustrating, concerning, is the notion of what happens in the halls. So they had rolled out a policy where I guess there was, and Dr. Steinmiller, maybe you could speak to this a little bit more clearly, or Brad, maybe you remember it better than I do. That the teachers were kind of asked on a volunteer basis to help usher kids in into their classrooms. So there's not kids kind of meddling in the hallways. This is something that we actually, as a safety and security team, watched a video on because it has been done successfully at other schools where teachers sort of sit in the hallway or stand outside and greet kids. So all the kids are kind of moving into class together. And apparently there is some rub with the union in terms of teachers being asked to volunteer outside of their specific time that they're out. What was it? Their specific, I don't want to misspeak here.
It was just determined to be what I understand from a couple conversations, just outside of their job duties.
So I think that that's going to be revisited in some way, or I don't know what there's.
Any concerns that are CTU or any of the practices? That's something I'd engage with the PPC on, and we would discuss that. So
Can't hear anything.
so
for the air
any
conditioning.
concerns around?
Can we turn this off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any concerns about CTU contractual language? We address those in the PPC, and so that would have to be a formal item to address.
Peter. Oh my God. Oh my God.
We added the facilities
Is it?
report, broken window. Tom?
Get hurt, you lose quorum.
Yeah.
Not-
Yeah.
We would address that. Great spot.
Weekend at Bernie's for them.
God, that's so much better.
Yeah, so safety and security, a couple of the things that came up through the committee this year, I just wanted to piggyback on what Amy was saying, was just in general with cell phones, right, being disruptive. Teachers contacting Tom at various points for bathroom passes and bathroom passes going missing, and kids being in the hallways without approval and kids being disruptive. So one of the solutions coming out of that team, the team of full-time employees here that Amy and I would hear back, was some kind of hall monitoring, right? Sweeps, but the security team alone, there's various absences that happen out of that team. So there's not a full 12 members. And there hasn't been, and we know from our budget conversations, there hasn't been dollars devoted to a supervisor, specifically of the security team. So it's fallen on an AP, but there's only one AP, right, this year. And so other people tried to fill in to designate where security would go, but without a supervisor of security and without enough APs, there needed to be extra help. So it is really disappointing to the Safety Security Committee, including, you know, the LSC representatives here that are on the Safety Security Committee, that happened where the teachers are no longer being able to volunteer through union measures, you know, toward that effort. And so the Safety and Security Committee is, I think, just going to revisit when the school year starts again and think about other ways to monitor the hallway, which I know when we do various surveys to faculty, it comes up where people say they're really frustrated by the commotion that happens in the hallways. So the team is a little bit back to ground zero, add solutions that are easy to implement in the hallway without additional dollars coming from the LSC, and trying to figure out, you know, security or other technology or other ways to try to improve the halls.
Thank you, Amy and Brad. Appreciate that. Next, community relations.
Yeah, we had a brief and small meeting, but you know, one thing we want to elevate the community was the award, the presidential award. It's just something people should know about. So want to get out there. And then I was elevating the Alderman newsletter, the cleanups that you know, Ms. Rosenthal, big part of the great stuff. Also sponsorship, so some big stuff. So, you know, anyway, those are both wonderful things that are happening.
Cool. You know, just one thought I was thinking, Miss Tarver was talking about like engaging local community businesses and stuff. Maybe that's a future conversation to have, you know, just a thought. Yeah.
It's specifically around those beautification efforts, or just
Maybe just fundraising, you know, support. Dr. Steinmiller has a vision of you know, having local businesses support the school teams and, you know, have colors in the windows and whatever, just a little community building around the school. So if she's going to start outreach, maybe there's a possibility there.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely want to work together with her and
Cool.
be helpful with anything on that.
Thank you. Communication, is there anything there? Amy? Okay, great. So the next item is we have to pick a day in July between the 1st and the 14th for an organizational meeting. And the purpose of this meeting is when we choose all the dates for the year, the calendar for the monthly meetings, and then choose officers. And that's when the term of the new members start. So we'll have 3 new students, 2 new parent reps, 1 teacher rep, and a community rep. So just FYI. So we need to pick a date between the 1st and the 14th of July. So I'd like to take a moment to try to do that with people. We could just think about calendars. There is the 4th of July in there, so I suspect that may not be a good day. But you know, I'll just propose, just to throw something out there, the Thursday, 14, 13, 12, I think it's the 11th. Just a day, let's pass the holiday, but I'm open to whatever, July 1st or, you know, whatever. I think we are going to need a quorum for that, right?
Yeah, I for me, I probably can't until the 10th, but I could do the 10th or the
10th would be easier. 11th. Conflict.
The 11th is the only day
I mean, I could do it, or
I can phone in, but I can't be in.
I can do it earlier.
I cannot do it earlier.
I'm fine on
But you're not here for it.
Oh, no, I have to be part of like, when I have to be part of like the meeting.
No.
No, this is the end meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot.
I thought I have to be like in
Yeah,
that,
'cause
like.
the options are, we as an LSC can kind of predetermine because there's carryover of people who are participating. So while people are here, it's good. Otherwise, I have to set a date. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 returning members here. So if it works for us, it's a good way to, we also have some people who are not here. We can set a tentative date. We can reach out to the people who are not here to say, hey, this works. But right now you have carryover. So
Right. So, how about the morning of the 11th? Would that work? Sometime in the morning of the 11th?
No.
Oh, I thought you couldn't do.
I can do the afternoon in the 11th, but I will.
can you
not.
virtual at all?
I can virtual.
Okay.
As long as we have quorum, we can still have it.
I can do
like-
virtual. It's just organization.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the-
Just
The
like
quorum
picking
is
dates.
the still a channel. We're going to need 8.
So we'll reach out to the new people. So what we can do is, what I would suggest, we vote on 2 days. That would work, that worked for the group here. And that would be the starting point where I can reach out with the new incoming people and say, these are the 2 days we're working for. Can you come in person? Make sure that we have quorum. Otherwise, then we can vote on 2 days.
Right. Let's do that. Let's do that. So, one day would be the 10th. Who can do the 10th? Just raise your hand. At some point.
And do that.
I can be available online,
Okay.
but not in person. So
Okay. So Paul, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alicia, could you do the 10th? Yes? Okay, so that's 5. And then how about who could do the 11th also
In the morning.
in the morning of the 11th? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Afternoon.
5. Okay.
What about afternoon of the 11th?
Kind of not counting you because we need the quorum.
No, I know, but
For me, it's.
he can't do the afternoon of the 11th, but there's other ones of us that can't, so.
Oh, right, we would lose you in the afternoon. Okay. So that's a wash. So,
I mean, you could do 4 o'clock on the 10th or 4 o'clock on the 11th. I could be virtual. I mean. So then she would be here, but I wouldn't.
Right.
We still have 5, so we just need to get 2 more. Afternoon, right? So
On the 11th, but you can't do
let's
the.
prioritize 4 o'clock on the, I mean, that's the we're equal members in the LSC, but if it's 4 o'clock on the 10th, I can be there in person. If
Okay.
it's 4 o'clock on the 11th, then.
I think let's try to prioritize around you because new members, I think would be nice. That
Okay.
you, if you're okay with that, everyone. So I'd like to make a motion to have our July meeting on the 10th at 4 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Oh,
July 10th at 4
And
p.m.
even though you're not on it, it would be good to have, we still need to have 7 people still vote.
Yeah.
we need to vote on the date for the
We
organization.
do, or else technically it's.
We have to pick it, or can I
It's
just?
kind of weird
declare
that
it?
you would have to
Let's just
vote.
declare it. I'm fine with.
You can, because what if?
Then
you-
otherwise I pick it at the same time anyway. So there we go.
Okay,
10th.
great. July 10th at 4 p.m. Done. In terms of the new people, I think it would be nice if you could reach out to them and that, but also share their emails with me. I'd like to just do them a welcome and. So, because they're gonna have a bunch of stuff to go through, training and all of that. Okay, so we are about ready to enter closed session, I believe, because that's next on our agenda. Is there a motion? Oh, do we have people online?
So we don't have, we do, I'll have to remove them.
Okay, so just hello to everyone online. We're going to enter closed session to discuss Dr. Steinmiller's.
Sorry, I don't know if we did any public comment.
Yeah.
We did at the beginning, but we don't have it as an agenda item.
Is there a desire for public comment from anyone? Thank you, Ms. Hookie. Thank you very much.
Great summer.
Happy summer. All right. Oh, thank you, Ms. Okay. Point of order clarified. Okay, thank you. So Ms. Sepulveda, we'd love for you to hang on for the attendees. I mean, we don't formally have a public comment, but we just allowed one from Ms. Tookie. Is there anyone online who would like to make a comment before we move into closed session? All right. Oh, is Mr. Hardesty there? Yeah, I don't know. He controls that. You can see it, but it doesn't show. Because that, what's played there is actually on that back part. So one of the things is the recording. So they're just deciding, do they mute it and turn off the video and leave it running? Or do we turn it off and create a second thingy? Because we're gonna have to come back online and then vote.
That's what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
I think.
I think you close this.
Right. Not, because otherwise it's a live thing. So what's gonna happen? I'm gonna end the webinar for everybody.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to certify the formal evaluation results that we just had in closed session.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
I vote
Okay.
to close this.
I think
I will
we can
second.
make a motion to, yeah, okay. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, and it's what link?
It's
told